The BlokeBusters podcast is proud to be a member of the Pod Bros Network. You can find us, as well as other fantastic podcasts, such as Pencil and Ink Review, Another Damn Trivia Show, and Language of Bromance at podbros.com, as well as on most other fine podcasting services. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to share and enjoy the BlokeBusters podcast.
Welcome to episode 75 of the BlokeBusters podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Brian.
And today we'll be talking about Suicide Squad, as you can probably guess, right? First and foremost, do follow us on Twitter at BlokeBusters, Facebook, BlokeBusters. We're on Instagram at BlokeBusters. We have an email, blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com, if you want to get a hold of us in extremely long form or anything like that. We have a website, blokebusters.webs.com, and as I said before, one day I will just make it blokebusters.com, but
one day.
Yes, don't really have the money
dreams.
spare.
Yes.
And also, please do rate and review us on iTunes. If this is your first episode, just stop right now and give us 5 stars before we can change your mind. And if this isn't your first episode, thanks for coming back. Please give us 5 stars on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, really.
Yes, please. Thank you. And thank you.
Yes. And just in case you're wondering, wow, Brian seems a little quieter than normal.
I am feeling a little under the weather today, folks, so I apologize. I will do my best.
Yes. I mean, the trials and tribulations of podcasting here. You must forward, no matter how you really...
The show must go on. Which is what this movie insisted on doing, but sorry to spoiler on opinions to come.
Obviously, Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayer. I'm assuming is how you pronounce that name.
Yeah, that's what I'd go with.
Budget of $175 million, and 10 days after release, a box office of worldwide $465,374,728 US.
So they make the money, so they're going to keep making them.
Yeah. Well, just to jump off a little bit, I believe as a result of this, they are going to be making basically a DC villain-esque film with Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Catwoman, and so on. So there might be some good coming out of it. Especially seeing the Wonder Woman trailer, it seemed like, at the very least when it comes to female villains, they haven't really dropped the ball that much. I mean, obviously we'll get to that.
Yes, as far as my
I said that much.
Harley.
we all cover that.
Yeah.
So what is the plot of this?
The plot is a secret government agency recruits a group of imprisoned supervillains to execute dangerous Black Ops missions in exchange for clemency, which inevitably leads to chaos.
Somebody with a thesaurus was writing this one.
Yes.
Yes. So basically, bad guys do stuff to try and get out of prison. It's kind of that. And yeah, so I think we should probably start this one with what were your feelings going in?
What were my feelings going into this? Once again, as I always get out of the way, these are spoiler episodes. Everything is a spoiler episode.
Yes.
If you wish to see Suicide Squad and don't want it ruined, see it first, then listen to this.
Yep.
That being said, I was going into this thinking, the first note I made was that DC is kind of your ex-girlfriend, or just your ex in general, whoever your ex may be, that keeps wanting you to take them back, and you keep taking them back, and they keep promising that they'll change.
Yes.
And I bought it one more time. I thought, yeah, they can change. Wait, you cheated again. So, I thought this had a chance to be decent. Right. I was certainly expecting it to be miles and miles ahead of
Batman v Superman.
Yes, BVS. Not necessarily what I like I said, getting a little too far ahead, but I don't know quite if it hit that mark that I was expecting it to. It didn't. So we'll get there. Yeah, so I mean, I was expecting so much more, and once again, had my heart just shattered all over the place because I had a heart unlike the film. How about you?
Alright, well, let's see. I went into this thinking that, like you said, maybe it could be, if not fantastic, I mean, obviously Marvel has set such a high bar at this point that they're always going to be struggling to reach that. But, at least decent, and it seemed as though they were doing quite well at setting up most of the characters. Obviously, given the number of characters in this film, there were going to be some that would always fall by the wayside. One in particular, but I'll mention that a bit later. And I don't think I had as bad a time with it as you, based on what you were just saying. But, I think it definitely did fall flat on a few things, but we'll obviously get into all of this a little bit later. Just to run through the cast list quick, in case you didn't know who was in it, and I am going to do this as quick as I can.
Please, because it's a mile long.
Alright, I've only written 10 down, and when you say you've only written 10 down, that's saying something. Will Smith as Floyd Danton or Deadshot, Jared Leto was Joker, Margot Robbie was Harley Quinn or Harleen Quinzel, depending on which point in her timeline you're going with. Joel Kinnaman, fresh off of Stranger Things, was Rick Flag. Viola Davis was Amanda Walker. Jai Courtney was Digger Harkness or Captain Boomerang, one of the best names in the film, I thought. Jay Hernandez was, and I wrote this down, I think I've got Chato Santana or El Diablo, and Adewale Akinwumi Agbaji, and I really hope I got that right.
I think you nailed it.
Yes, was Waylon Jones or Killer Croc, and Carla Delevingne, it's one of those weird spellings of the last name, was June Moon or Enchantress, I guess Andor used to say, and Karen Fukuhara was Tatsu Yamashiro or Katana.
Okay.
So that is...
It's all.
with the exception of one person that I'll probably mention in a minute, that is everyone of note in this film.
And maybe some more.
Yes.
That were not of note.
Yes. But I will say, one thing that I did enjoy in this film when it just happened was they brought in a character specifically to show you that someone could die, and that would be Slipknot. You only see him in the final lineup. You don't see them going to get him. He can apparently climb anything because he has a grapple hook like Batman. And the entire point of him being in it is to try and escape and get his head blown off. That was it. That was the only reason that he was in this
about
thing.
as well used as Jimmy Olsen and BVS.
Yes. Yeah, but... he is the Jimmy Olsen.
He is the Jimmy Olsen of this movie, yeah. Like, oh, look, character. Oh, yep, boom, dead. All right, now sit for 2 more hours.
Okay, so obviously the biggest elephant in the room has got to be Joker.
Joker, yeah.
So, what was your take on this Joker then?
You're going to sense a theme with my comments. I did not care for it.
Okay.
And I know this criticism may sound unfair when I say it was so overacted, and you're like, well, it's a comic book. Yeah. You should overact a little. A little, yes. And, I mean, yes. I mean, there is some unavoidable comparing going on to Heath Ledger.
There's going to be.
You can't, because that performance was so iconic. And, I mean, just defining of, it's one of those performances that's going to stand for years and years as one of the best performances in a film. So, kind of a tough task to take on anyway. Yeah.
And you want it to be somewhat different. And obviously, Joker doesn't change too much in the comics. So I haven't read all the comics. And so, obviously, if he does change a lot in something, then forgive me for that. But for the most part, he's a relatively even keeled Joker, and we've had Jack Nicholson doing the Joker, we've had Heath Ledger doing the Joker, we've had Mark Hamill doing the Joker, fantastically, I might add, in audio form. And now we have Jared Leto as the Joker. And obviously Cesar Romero, was it, in the original Batman series? Was that
could be. We'll get to the fact-checking department.
Yes, I may or may not have just given the wrong actor the name there, so we'll see. But
I thought... everything I thought was wrong with this character. As far, I mean, I can't speak to the comic books, so sorry if I'm talking out of my ass here, people. But it's what I do here at BlokeBusters.
Yes,
it's part of. It's on my name. It's on my little nameplate on my desk. It talks out of ass. But even the character design with the contacts and the teeth and like the whole looking like he's just like a thug guy. Like I hated that.
Right.
The writing of him I thought was awful. He's really not afforded any big moments or huge moments. Any going back, Heath Ledger, like you felt like every single one of his scenes was a huge moment, but he made it that way. Even just in the interrogation room with Batman, it's a super tense moment. Tense moment. You feel that, so it doesn't have to constantly be blowing things up or him in the semi shooting a bazooka or whatever the hell, it doesn't have to be moments like that, but he really wasn't in the movie that much.
No, was not.
It had a few scenes that, he popped up here and there, but scenes over like 3 minutes, maybe a handful, that were over a few minutes long.
Yeah, he was in it more than Batman. But,
and in that opening scene, did he actually take the time to set out all those knives and like, oh, this is going to be really cool when a camera that I'm not aware of pans up and I'm laying here.
Well,
I started checking out right there.
Yeah. Well, they showed that in one of the trailers, and when I was sitting there watching, I was like, okay, I know this is here, so I'm going to see if there's a design I'm missing. Like maybe when it zooms out, it's in the shape of this. As far as I can tell, it's not in the shape of anything. It's just Joker goes here. That's about it.
What's the purpose of that?
Again, maybe it actually is from the comic or something like that.
From that point, it's like, okay, they're worried more about style than substance, and that genre or that theme kind of carried through.
Yeah, it's really, really odd. The one big problem I had with this Joker, and don't get me wrong, I didn't mind seeing another take on the Joker, because if you're going to do a new Joker, like, you can't have someone just pretend to be, that's Nicholson's Joker in this. You need to have a new Joker, otherwise
you can't do the level of insanity that Heath Ledger did. You
have to be new, otherwise you're going to be ripped into anyway, and then you're going to be ripped into because it wasn't the old one. So it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, unless you pull off a miracle like Heath Ledger did. Yes. It was like, because everyone said, you're never going to be as good as Nicholson, and we actually thought that Nicholson performance was good. We are idiots.
But the problem I had is that this Joker cared for Harley Quinn.
Did he? Because he's kind of a dick. Well, I hate that relationship between them, and
Well, that's the thing. In the comics, as far as I'm aware, again, please feel free to correct me if you hear this and go, well, actually, no, it's this. But the Joker in the comics that I'm aware of, he treats everyone and everything as a means to an end. The reason that he makes Harley Quinn fall in love with him and break him out of, or help him get out of Arkham Asylum and all of that, is because he needs to get out of Arkham Asylum. He doesn't want to be in there. So when this person who is absolutely obsessed with him, willing to do anything he wants, is around, he's even still a little annoyed because all he wanted to do is get out, and now he's got this, and obviously now she can fit into his plans. But if she was to be captured, then he'll get her out when it suits him. He's not just going to get her out because he wants to get her out. That doesn't happen, and that's what they did in this film. He wants Harley Quinn back. That's all he wants in this, and that's not the Joker. So I don't know why they wrote it that way. And
Margot Robbie even came out and said she wasn't a fan of the relationship, like how controlling he's portrayed. And I don't know how much of the cartoons you've seen. That's very, very good in the cartoons, where you have this Harley, like,
for instance, the line that slipped past all the censors when she's running around the room just going, come on, Mr. J, don't you want to ride your Harley? And then like running around, and he's just like, go away. Like, I'm trying to do that. Get lost. That's the Joker. And this Joker dropped everything to get Harley Quinn back. And then... Like, maybe he's dead at the end. Probably isn't. Don't care. That's the big problem with this as well. And I found it a lot in the film. They just seem to ambiguously deal with a fair number of characters. And it's like, okay, going right to the end.
Okay. Skip to the end.
Yeah, right at the end here. Why should we assume that Enchantress's brother is dead? Why would explosives kill him?
That's what, because it seems like other mortal weapon, like other gunpowder power device or whatever. Bullets aren't hurting him. Other things aren't.
Missiles didn't hurt him, as far as we know.
But get a big enough bomb and it'll kill anything.
Yeah, especially since him and El Diablo, they're made of fire. Basically, is what you're looking at, and they're going to use firepower.
Anything you need, some sort of ice.
Yes, Mr. Freeze. You need to bring Mr. Freeze in on this. You know what?
Wouldn't have been bad.
If Arnold Schwarzenegger had turned up as Mr. Freeze right at the end, just terrible ice pun and then away. Like, sure, I'll go with it. That's fine.
Hasn't this movie been cool? Bye, folks. Yeah. Well, at least that was something.
Or they just rip the images of him from Batman and Robin, and then just put it in, like, even with that old audio as well. So it's like, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. And then you just see him go, psh, and then they're just frozen, and then he never mentioned again. Like, I would have liked that more than how they did it. And it's just explosion. Well, yeah,
I know we're working a little
dead.
backwards here, but I am getting a little sick of the bad guys being giant gods. It seems like, and that's to Marvel too a little bit. I suppose, everything. Oh, it's a giant god. Oh, look, he gets really big and he's can destroy anything. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to say that Enchantress's brother, who I don't remember, did they give him a name?
Probably.
Probably, yeah. So,
how much I care about that character.
He basically reminded me of, I don't know how much you remember from, or if you watched at all, the original X-Men cartoon show. But there was a character in there called Apocalypse, and he looked a lot different from the Apocalypse in the recent film. And he basically looked like he took that guy and made him of fire and gave him Ultron's kind of face marking. That was him. Like, that was all it was. It was just these things put together, and it was like, oh, so you're just ripping off other things here? Like, you're not bothering to come up with something that looked even remotely like Enchantress. They're brother and sister. Surely there should be some similarity between them in looks of some kind. But nope.
Maybe they were one was adopted.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he was the adopted one. Yeah. From the Ice Giants, probably. I don't know. So yeah, this. I mean, was there anything about this film that you did enjoy then?
That I did enjoy? Well, this is always a telling sign of how well you enjoyed a film. When your go-to is, I really enjoyed the set design. Yep. Some of the set design, you're like, ooh, wow, you're really reaching. Yep, I am. Set design, I thought the credit sequences looked great.
Yeah, they did.
The end. End of speech.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, so sorry if I continue there. I think Margot Robbie and Will Smith did their absolute best with what they could do. Much like Affleck did in BVS, did the best he could do. I enjoyed them a little more than I did Affleck and Batman. But, just... I don't know where to begin with with my issues with this because
well, why don't we talk about Deadshot and Harley Quinn then? So obviously you said you thought they did the best with what they did, what they had. Mm-hmm. So did you like Will Smith as Deadshot?
I didn't mind him. as with all the other characters, I feel like his backstory was a little forced. Yeah. Because, I mean...
His was almost the one you saw the most of.
Most of, yeah. But it still didn't work for me. I mean, he's still a murderer. There's no getting around that.
He is
he's still a
bad
guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so... it's unavoidable to get... So I'll get it out now. This film just lacks any sort of emotional heart. Or emotional investment or heart. Just like... you just can't have a group of killer badasses and expect it to be a good movie. There needs to be something that grounds them to a reality. Some entry point for the common person, aka movie viewer, watcher, to access that character, to understand and relate to them. And there was none of that. And don't give me this Will Smith and his daughter bull crap. I didn't care about it for a second. I'm coming up a little harsh. I'm sick. I'm sorry. But it made me mad. It made me resent the film. Even like Dark Knight Rises, it was still a very enjoyable movie, I think, for me, but probably the least favorite of those three, I would say.
I can get behind that. But
still, even in that film, you see Bane's vulnerability, and you see Selena Kyle's vulnerability. They're shown to be, even though they have this screwed up take on the world, or, from that perspective, they still have feelings and still care about things, and I felt none of that in this film. And even with the reshoots, like, could you not tell every scene that was a freaking reshoot?
Yeah, pretty much.
With insert corny joke,
now, the only thing I will say is this film got a lot of slack for going, oh, okay, we're reshooting this stuff. Mm-hmm. Name me one film that didn't reshoot something. Like I said, there are...
I think it's more the extent, like,
There are loads of films that decided to redo something. Mm-hmm. For instance, shall we say, I don't think it was the original Spider-Man, I believe it was Spider-Man 2, when they obviously had the two towers in it, and then the terrorist attack happened, and they were like, okay, no, we're changing that entirely. And then this one, it seemed as though the reshoots were a reaction to the trailer. However, I'm not 100% convinced that the planned reshoots were a reaction to the trailer. I think they just added to it. Because I'm sure they had something where they were like, oh no, we missed this, oh, we should have gone this way, so we'll just do that. And then they were like, you know what, why don't we film some of this as well, and we'll see if we can throw it in. And then they did. The problem I think they've run into is they made Suicide Squad. And once again, this is about people who are the worst villains there are in this universe, being fitted with devices that will blow their heads off if they don't do what they're told. Doing things that people aren't supposed to know that they're doing to either get time off their sentences or for other reasons. And they made it a PG-13.
Once again, the worst rating out there. I hate PG-13.
What I want to see actually now is I want these films to... obviously, if it's not meant to be an R rating, and for those in the UK, let's say an 18, if it's not meant to be that rating, if it actually is aimed at the younger audience, and fair enough, make it that way. But if it's from something which would be more towards a mature audience, make it that way, release it in the cinema that way, and then when it comes out on DVD, have an alternate cut or something, so you can watch it with your kids or whatever, and they can see the version that is.
Well, guess what? Not everything needs to be tailored to the kids. I'm sorry, you grow up and then you can see movies later, or you can show them to your kids and say it's a movie. And trust that they're probably a lot smarter than you anyway, because that's the world we live in now. And 2-year-olds can run iPhones, but it's. Don't half-ass it like this. It's be one or the other.
That's always going to be the issue with a lot of it. Especially, obviously, DC now is trying to play catch-up.
And they're trying to play it quickly.
Yeah, and they're trying to make it as widely available as possible. But most of their stuff isn't aimed like that. If you go to their comics, there's some really gritty, really heavy stuff in their comics, and they're adapting it to be family friendly, and that's not what you want. That's not what the people that read the comics want, and that's not what the people like us who want to go and see even though it's not a great film, I loved Watchmen because it didn't tone it down. This is what that world was, and this is Watchmen done for the kiddies. So it's like, what have you done with this franchise? I don't get it.
And I don't understand, why does everything have to be so freaking bleak with these? Like, the Dark Knight trilogy rode that line of edgy but with humor, and there wasn't always in a dark hole or basement. There was wonderfully lit scenes. They went all over the place. Everything that seems like they want to do now is just bleak, just dark, no fun at all. This is just a horrible, dangerous world, and
well, it happened at night. You see.
It did, and you're trying to play catch up with Marvel. Throw some fucking color in your movie, and not just on Margot Robbie's ass. Which we'll get to that.
I was gonna say, I felt like I should probably try keeping some sort of shot counter going while I was doing it. And round about halfway through, I was like, I've lost count. They just keep having shots where it's either her ass or you see someone else and then she walks by. She's not... Okay. This is...
I mean, can we say one of the most overly sexualized characters in recent memory? Like, it was pretty bad, I thought.
I mean, the problem you're going to run into is, of course, there are multiple takes on Harley Quinn now, and... people were saying, "Oh, what the hell have they done? She's not dressed in the traditional." And when I say traditional, I'm talking about the original cartoon series, where she
the jester?
is the jester kind of outfit, the onesie.
Yeah,
but there are comic books run out there where she is basically wearing this sort of stuff, and that's what they went with.
Well, they went with why they went with that. Yes, because you have a beautiful actress playing the role, and that's all she is ass. So let's just shoot that.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where I would have loved to have seen her, and you saw it was there in that trunk or whatever it was she was going through. She had the original costume, and they could have gone with it. However, I would point out that is somewhat impractical in a fighting situation. Because would you want to be in a onesie in a fight? You can't really stretch too far one direction.
Yes, the booty shorts much more comfortable. I'm sure.
Yes.
But I mean,
I'm not saying they're comfy. I'm saying they're just a bit more practical.
But I would have loved to have seen that time spent a little more in doing a little bit more of her backstory, a little bit more of her time at Arkham as the doctor or as the psychiatrist.
Well, I think what would have been great is, as you go through the film, like rather than doing all of her falling for the Joker in one go, and when I say all of, a minute? Yeah. I think as you went through the film, because even though Deadshot is I guess the head of that group, as it were, I should say, it's clear that Harley Quinn was the main focus of the film. So as the film goes on, you should have seen in chronological order snippets of her going from being the head psychologist at Arkham, first meeting the Joker, then a few sessions in, then when she's absolutely besotted with him, then after they've broken out, and then the final transformation right at the end. And I think that would have been something that could have happened, like when that helicopter crashes and she thinks Joker's dead, then have the flash to him pushing her into the thing and then jumping in to save her. Like, I think that would have been the best place to put it.
Yeah, you're touching on another one of the issues, how poorly edited I feel like this film was.
Yeah.
In conjunction with the writing.
Yeah,
I don't know how much of that was written that way, but
I have conflicting.
The pacing was all over the place.
I'd say the editing was awful. However, the pacing was good. So somehow they badly edited the story and plotline together. But I think because they worked out a pacing that worked, they were like, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, when you get to the big boss battle, guess what? It's too late for backstory. I don't need cutaways to backstory at that point.
No.
I should need to know everything I need to know about these characters by then. And I don't need... Yeah, that whole El Diablo... or Diablo's, like... That was like a 5-minute scene that just took the air out of everything.
Yeah. And one thing I found very strange is Harley Quinn has that, like, at the end, or towards the end... Enchantress gives all of them images of the perfect life, what they want. And Harley Quinn is her, as her old self, married to the Joker, who isn't the Joker. And she's fine with that. Mm-hmm. No.
She just wants to be married to Jared Leto.
Yeah, she wants to be with the Joker. She doesn't want to be with... normal, whatever the guy
accountant
is.
Joker or whoever, you know.
Yeah, she should have been the first one to cut out of it. I mean, obviously they wanted El Diablo to be the one to cut out of it because he can see, and no further explanation is given to that. But like, she should have been one of the ones to just be like, "You're wrong. This is. I don't want this. I want that Joker." I want pudding. I don't want...
Yeah.
I don't want Mr. 9 to 5.
No kidding. Yeah. So you thought it was well-paced?
I thought the pacing was good. There was never... I mean, with the exception of, as you said, like, the kind of cutaway to the extra long backstory. That one was a bit odd. But in terms of action to, like, story, action, story, it actually did kind of ride the wave quite well. I was never looking at my watch.
If I had a watch on, I would have. Because this felt like 2:40 to me, not 2 hours and 3 minutes.
I mean, Batman v Superman. Mm-hmm. There was one point I pulled my phone out and like I was just like, okay, how much longer is this? And yeah, I don't pull my phone out in the cinema. That's not what you do. But I don't own a watch. I wanted to know what the time was. Whereas this film, I felt. I never felt it was either going on too long or that it was losing me for a long amount of time, with the exception, as we said, of that kind of randomly placed backstory. But
so I felt like the whole middle of this movie was just, it was so hard to stick with it for me. I really did not want to stick through it. I really didn't. And I'm like, oh, let's watch them throw millions more at this budget that's overinflated and really unnecessary.
I'm assuming...
With the bubble boy henchmen and... Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming when you say the middle bit, you're referring to when they go to the bar.
Anything not the first 10 minutes or the last 10 minutes. Yes. That is the middle bit.
Yeah, but basically from when they first start fighting the bubble people to when they get to the bar. I imagine that was probably your this is dragging time.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't mind that bit because I felt obviously you finally got to see Deadshot be kick-ass. I mean, you saw the impossible shot he was able to pull off at the beginning when you saw him taking out the mafia informant or whatever.
Yeah.
So you've seen that, but you didn't see, with the exception of, they gave him a gun and he shot the targets. Like, you didn't see people actually seeing what he could do until that point. So I was fine with that. And I thought that the bar scene kind of worked well, especially, and I actually enjoyed Jai Courtney in this because he genuinely was always trying to find a way out. And that moment when Rick Flag is like, he just breaks that control and says, "You're free, I don't care," and then Captain Boomerang is off, like he's gone at that point. I thought that was a perfect little moment in there, and I really enjoyed that. No idea why he came back.
Yeah,
he was back again at the end there. But,
not sure I would have kept going.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that he was probably one of those people that if he's like, if no one else is leaving, okay, fine. I'll help out.
I was entertaining myself in the movie by calling him Tom Harley in my head. So that got me through a little while.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, Tom Harley. Yeah. He'd be, yeah, so that was the resort I had to go to.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, and
Yes.
As much as I kind of enjoyed the character once she was on screen, how did you like the introduction of Katana? Introduction, rather, I should say.
Was there one?
Yes, it was his katana.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to tell you less than we told you about Cyclops, or what was her name from
Psylocke.
Psylocke, yeah, from X-Men.
That was
worst character. Yeah, even poorer characterization. Yeah,
it was
awful.
So
Why was she even in the movie?
Probably
because she's in the suicide. If you're not going to spend the time on it, edit room. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the main problem is they needed to have a super or meta or whatever person on their side, like definitely working for them, and so they were like, "Oh, sure."
Did she have any? I mean, like I said, I kind of tuned out. Did she have any contributions, major moments? I mean, she's in the battle there. Was there anything that hinged on her existence? Not really. I'm answering it.
No, she just helped out.
Yeah, she was there.
Yeah, and that was the thing. When Enchantress ended up with those swords, I thought, oh, it's going to come down to the two of them fighting, and then everyone else is like trying to either get rid of the big guy or try to... No, she just occasionally swung the sword. And that was about it.
And then casually mentioned, oh yeah, there's a soul in the sword. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, that... She had
one and then I'm supposed to care about her then because she like loves her sword husband or whatever. Is that what was in there?
Which, if anyone has seen or played the game Transistor, yeah, that is the exact thing right there. That is that. It's kind of. I mean, I know that Katana, the character, has been around for way longer than Transistor, the game, but yeah, that's it basically. It's just the soul inside the sword, but that one can't speak. So there we go. Yeah, I don't really know where else to go from here other than did you notice how there were a couple of shots, especially when the helicopters were coming into the city. The city was beautifully rendered, wonderful, like looked great. You could see all the stuff going on,
yeah,
all that stuff, and then the helicopters were shit.
They were absolute shit.
Yeah, they were the worst CG I have seen in a long time. It was awful. I don't understand how that could happen. How can you have such a well done cityscape moving? Like, the camera, and I'm using inverted commas here, is moving through the cityscape. You're seeing all of this stuff happen. And then you're just seeing what looks like a 480p image of the helicopter added on top of it. It was so weird. I don't get it.
Yeah, it was noticeably bad. Like, not even where I'm like, oh wow, that could be a little better. I'm like, what? Just yikes. Yeah, that's awful. Like,
yeah, and I think they spent all the time on Enchantress, the brother, and the city. And then everything, they're like, crap, we forgot the helicopters. We've got 2 hours. Get it in there. No, sorry, not to, and that's trivializing the thing. Like they probably would have needed a solid couple of days to get it to even that point. So yeah.
How about you cut out some of the tar bubble henchmen, whatever, and you don't need 1,000 of those guys. Put some money in the fucking helicopters.
I don't fully understand a lot of some of the stuff they did. For instance, Enchantress, obviously she had powers, and they never really go into anything about it. It's just she can do the stuff. And obviously it said she's from another world or another thing, like whatever, it doesn't matter. She just can do all this stuff, and there's no limit, apparently.
Yeah.
At all.
Goes to, I think, the writing.
Why was the brother not in one of those suitcases? Like, why wouldn't the brother be right next to the heart?
Don't know.
So if she got too close, my heart.
Because we all know witches are useless without their hearts, right? That's established.
Yes.
Well, okay, so I'm glad we got that straight.
Yes. Again, obviously that was the world that was set up, and I'm sure in the comics it is the same. But
sure.
yes, it did kind of come out of nowhere.
But just because something doesn't mean you have to hold true to it if it sounds like bullshit.
Yes.
You can change things around a bit.
And
it's a separate thing.
One other thing as well. So they found her heart and her brother in the same place that Enchantress was in, right?
I guess they just had to move a couple more rocks, and oh look, there it is. Okay.
Right. And June Moon, the archaeologist, went there by herself.
Moon Raider.
How the hell did she not find it herself? Surely, having been taken over by Enchantress would go, "Oh yeah, my heart's over
we
there.
Want to get that before we leave."
Yeah, my heart might be useful.
You kind of need that to be a complete badass. So if you want to grab that real quick, that'd be cool. Yeah, but no.
Again, it's just
an example of just bad writing all over the place, which is weird to me because David Ayer wrote one of my favorite films, End of Watch, which I think is a supremely well done police drama. Have you ever seen that one, Paul? They use a lot of like surveillance cameras and dash cams, and it's like real time. A lot of it.
I've seen trailers for it.
It's very well done, and I think very well written. So I know this guy can write. But I don't know if it was the double task of directing and writing this.
Maybe.
But there were a couple times, and let me know if you think if this bothered you, if you noticed it, and if you think it's an example of poor writing, because I obviously think it is. But there were multiple occasions. I only wrote down the two that came to mind, but where they would just have a bit of exposition, or strike that. Something would happen. It'd make no sense to us, the movie viewers, make no sense to the people on screen, and then they quickly explain it, and then move on. Like, after that, like, once was how the witch didn't end up blowing up the bomb, early on, and, and then they should, show the heart getting stabbed. Like, really quick throwaway explanation there. Yeah. Another one was like, how do they know all of these locations at the black sites that they're blowing up, up then, and then quick cut to Viola hooked up Matrix style.
Yeah.
Like, wait, let me answer this real quick for you. And then I just think that was so sloppy.
I wanted to mention that this was the only part in the film where I actually laughed. I had
a couple of laughs.
Which was when that thing goes out, destroys the satellite, and they're like, that was our main satellite uplink.
I wish I didn't that. Yes, because we have a main. That was our favorite satellite. No.
It was like,
not Jimmy.
Wow,
I named him Jimmy.
It was this thing of like almost as if it was from the original TV show. Just like they've disrupted it. Oh no! Like what? Why is that?
Guess what? Yeah, there's no main satellite. They kind of work together. Yeah.
And even if the one satellite were taken out, I'm sure the U.S. military has multiple satellites.
Yeah. Shoot, they found our one satellite.
The rest of these are just for show.
I expect that writing in a Michael Bay film, but not in Suicide Squad.
Yes.
But here it was nonetheless. There was a couple other things I wanted to bring up, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
The music cues drove me insane, especially in the opening of this film. And opening, I mean by the first half hour. Yeah. There have got to be 10 to 15 music cues.
Yeah.
And I would have so much rather see, instead of buying the rights to those songs that are, number one, extremely dated, which I don't care what time this Suicide Squad was supposed to happen in or whatever. And here's the thing: I like most of those songs, but it didn't work for me in the film. And it was like every 2 seconds, House of the Rising Sun, and then an AC/DC song, and then a
Queen
song, and just every 2 minutes there was like a 30-second cue.
Yeah, it seems
like
it's
just like look how cool we are, look how cool this movie is going to be.
Yeah, they were definitely pairing that music with the Suicide Squad being together. Like that was how they were doing that, and it wasn't necessary.
And the entire opening of the film too, like the whole profile like bring it up, bring up like their baseball card or whatever with their stats and stuff. Like, there was a little bit of that in Guardians, just they kind of a little bit. It really worked well. They didn't beat it over the head like they did here.
Yeah,
and it took so long to get them together. Just get them together, explain bits and pieces as you go, but let's get it moving.
Yeah,
and it just felt video game-ish, for me.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of points where I almost felt like it was kind of Scott Pilgrim-esque. Mm-hmm. Where it would just be like the thing just popping up on screen. Like, oh, well,
attributes, here's a special ability, blah blah, all that shit.
Although there was one thing I heard on a podcast, I can't remember which one, but where they're basically saying that there were only 2 people on the team that had any actual powers. The rest of the people on the team were all just very good at something. So you had Deadshot, who never misses. You have Harley Quinn, who is just insane.
Who can swing a bat.
Yeah. And can fight. That is one thing about Harley Quinn. She can fight.
Yeah.
And then you've got something Captain Boomerang, who is very good with a boomerang.
Everyone's favorite weapon of choice, the boomerang.
Then you got Killer Croc, who, granted, he seemed to have mutated a bit, but he's just strong. Like, that's about it. He doesn't really have powers. He's just strong.
He's a scaly thing, or the thing. Yeah.
And then you've got El Diablo and Enchantress, both of whom, at the end of the film, no longer exist, supposedly. Obviously, there's any number of ways they can go from there, but you put together this squad of people who the idea is they're almost meta-human, and then you got rid of the actual meta-humans. And then that's it. Bye-bye. Like, okay, how are we supposed to... Let's say they make a Suicide Squad 2 for some reason. Like, what are they going to do now? Are they going to get Poison Ivy added in so that they have someone with an ability of some kind?
That can do something? Good question. Lots of good questions asked.
Yes. No answers, but lots of good questions.
So did you notice how the end of this movie was Ghostbusters?
It was, yes. It was.
They totally ripped off the third act of Ghostbusters, where you have a god. If someone asks if you're a god, you say yes.
Also, modern Ghostbusters as well, with Machine causing big issues and having to deal with that as well.
Yeah.
It's just...
So you have the skyscraper with the beam of light, coming out with all this shit swirling around, very Ghostbusters-esque. And then you have essentially Zool, who...
Although, why did she need a machine?
I don't know.
What was that?
And what did she... Yeah, exactly. That whole machine line was... that was... yeah, because I need a machine. Okay, really?
I will make a machine.
Do you need our one satellite? Here's our favorite satellite.
That's all the machine did. It just took down the satellite. Because what was it going to do? They never actually said. It was just going to do something, and then it didn't do that thing. So we don't know what it was going to do.
I don't know. But we can get back to Ghostbusters here, sorry. Yes, because that is something I do enjoy talking about. Yes. So anyway, you have this Zool moving around. Did you feel like either the character or the actor had to go to the bathroom? This weird shoulder dip that drove me I need to dance and writhe around like this, and okay, your motivation is you really have to pee, but you really got to get this conquering the world shit out of the way first.
Well, one thing that's actually kind of fun is if anyone is listening to this, hasn't seen it, will go see it, whatever, at this point. Watch it, because when she's doing that weird thing, she always starts with the left arm, and then only once did she get to the right arm, because it was always the left arm's out and something was happening, and then cuts away, and then the next time you come back, here comes the left arm again.
Over again.
And then I think the third time you see her doing it, finally the right arm comes out, and then she turns around, I think.
Yeah. And then just to finish off with Dana being woken up in one of the dog things, we have Melanie Moon in the rubble. Like, come on. How beat for beat could you get there at the end?
Also, Melody Moon is a much better name than June Moon. I think.
Oh, yeah, is that what I said? Melody Moon. Is that what I said?
Yeah, but then you get the alliteration.
Who knows? I'm sick.
Yeah, the alliteration.
Then you get the Stan Lee alliteration. Yeah. Not June Moon. What shithead parents did that?
Yeah. Well, we wanted September, but it didn't work. So June is. Yeah. Alright, so obviously we're getting towards the end here, and
that's kind of what we thought. What did other people think about this?
Well, that's the thing. Now, before we had to do our rating, this I think had the most response when I said, "Hey, we're doing this. What do you think?"
And how many death threats do I currently have? After my opinions here.
Well, let's see. So going in roughly the order I received them in. So at Sci-Fi Movie Guys. They said, Suicide Squad felt like a rushed, bloated mess. DC is trying to catch up to Marvel without investing time in characterization.
Completely agree.
So, at T. Southcott, that's Tony Southcott, cool guy, he says, Suicide Squad's strength isn't in its plot. That has about the same rigidity as a bowl of spaghetti. It's with several characters that seem more fleshed out and better imagined than villains in other superhero movies. I will actually kind of agree with that one, that a lot of comic book and superhero villains are very one note. So they did at least give some of them a little bit more fleshing out. It even manages to make the most useless villain, Captain Boomerang, entertaining and enjoyable. In the end, it is a tie-dye streaked mess that still turned out to be enjoyable and even needed for the comic book genre. It isn't the home run DC was looking for, but it was the movie they needed. That is,
I think they needed a little more, but
each
to their own.
At the Last Row Pod, great podcast actually there, Drew from at the Last Row Pod there, responded to that one saying, couldn't have said it better, perfectly stated. I really enjoyed the film, although it was more of a summer blockbuster than overall great film. I really enjoyed the cast, specifically Will Smith as Deadshot. The story was thin, but the chemistry between the team was good. I'd preferred to see them take on a more formidable opponent as opposed to a magical beam in the sky, but it allowed the team to shine. So, and I will agree, obviously we haven't touched too much on stuff we like, but I did feel that the team worked well together, especially not at the very end, because obviously at the very end it was just big fight, but towards the end you could see them working together more and you saw the build up to that, so I will agree with that one. Then we have my wife, who basically just said Boomerang was stupid and useless and I didn't like Leto's Joker. So
I agree with the wife there too.
And I also got from John Brusque, who, if you don't recognise the name, he's the guy that runs our network, Pod Bros. He simply says, good acting, terrible plot. So, there's that.
Half right.
And my mum decided to get a hold of me to simply say, seeing it tomorrow.
Okay,
so, thanks for that.
TBD there. We'll update you as needed on the results of that.
And a friend of mine who, he is the comic book guy, he got a hold of us, or I say us, got a hold of me, to say that his review, I guess as it were, is strong character moment. I mean, he might mean moments, but he says moment. Surprisingly believable motivations, terrible plot, bad CGI, and bad major villain. Like Leto, but wasn't really given enough time to truly get, and then I think it cut him off there. Also, too many characters, Croc, Katana, and Boomerang not given a chance. And he gives a score of -6 for that. So, there we go. That is everything I have had back as of this recording. I will just quickly do a check, see if anyone else... no one else has got back to us.
Alrighty.
So, I believe it is your turn to go
is
first.
It? Okay. Well,
so let's see.
Well, what do we think is going to happen here? Really high score. Well, I don't want to go too long here because I've said pretty much all I needed to say here.
Yeah.
There was no fun in this movie for me. It was just all dark and joyless.
Yeah.
Like I said, no... I think poor characterization for the most part on most of the members of the squad, and I think more care and time could have been spent in there. The horrible editing, just the lack of any real enjoyment or emotion or sense of fun. It's just dark and boring and stupid. And that's, put it on the poster. Brian Glosterman, happy to sign it. I'm coming down hard. I'm coming down hard with a -8.5.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I
hated this movie. I hated it. If that was not clear in the previous 50 minutes.
All right, then. Well, I said at the beginning,
it's going to go up, yeah.
Yes, my score is not quite that low. As I did just say a few minutes ago, I did kind of enjoy the camaraderie. I've turned into the the camaraderie of the characters in the squad, and obviously they had to get the roll credits moment in there from Deadshot as well. And I do think that Margot Robbie did probably as best she could with what she had, and I'm looking forward to seeing
I agree. Yeah.
If that other film comes out, what they do with that. I enjoyed seeing another take on the Joker, even though I didn't think it was well done in terms of motivation and stuff like that. I would have loved to have seen his take on the Joker written properly. Because I think if they'd written him properly and given him actual stuff to do rather than just, I want Harley back, then I think it would have been a lot better. And as I said, I enjoyed Jai Courtney, but he wasn't given much to do, and they gave Killer Croc the we didn't even mention this, the very stereotypical black guy line. He even references BET at one point.
Yeah.
And for those of you not in America, BET is Black Entertainment Television, I believe, and it's a TV channel pretty much all black people in the shows and just all
in
of
music,
So yes, basically he was a Black Power person. It was just ridiculous. So, but so I've got both the good and the bad in there. I didn't hate it as much as Brian, but I am going to say that I agree with my friend in that it's about a -6. It's not great. They could have done way better with it, and I think they should have. This is one of those films where they should have let either Kevin Smith write it or some. In fact, Kevin Smith should have written this. Suicide Squad needed to be written by someone that A, can write dialogue, because it's a lot of dialogue, and B, knows the characters.
Exactly, loves the characters,
So, nothing against the director of this in terms of his writing, because, as we heard, he's a good writer, he just wasn't the best guy to do this.
Not with this material, no.
So, I get the feeling he's probably best doing his own stuff rather than writing what other people have done. So,
And we didn't even talk about Batman, because I guess there wasn't a lot to talk about, was it?
No, he's not in it very much.
No, and only in flashbacks. Or flash forward.
Entirely in flashback, with the exception of the mid-credits sequence, where you finally find out how he got information on Aquaman and the Flash and Enchantress as well.
Yes, once again, explaining things after the fact.
So, and it was a pointless scene, and also the idea that I got from that was, does she know that he's Batman, or does she not? Because it's very ambiguous.
Oh, and Superman's still dead as of this point. We forgot to mention that.
Yes.
Still dead.
Superman's still dead.
Yes, we'll keep you updated on that.
Yes, I imagine he won't be dead by the time the Justice League film starts, but...
I think he'll be resurrected somewhere around the third act. Is that not your prediction?
No, I think it'll be towards the beginning, because... they'll get the league kind of together. He'll be working for him, and then he'll come back because he'll be needed for something.
Because magic.
Yes, because reasons.
Because the sun or something. Okay, well, that's a conversation for another day.
Yes, yes, it is. So, yeah, do let us know what you thought, if you agree, if you disagree, if you want to say anything, really. We'll listen to pretty much anything at this point.
And remember, it is just a movie, even like the great ones. Just movies.
Yes. So, again, we're found on Twitter at BlokeBusters. Just search BlokeBusters. You'll find us everywhere. Email us, blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com. And please do, I know we said at the beginning, and every podcast says it, but seriously, please do rate us. You don't even need to review us. You don't want to. Just give us a rating.
Click that 5-star.
Because it really does help get us out there, so more people are.
It helps
likely
awareness
to find it.
so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would be very indebted to you. And at some point soon, I'm actually going to take all the reviews we've got and give them all a shout out, because we haven't really done that before, and I feel like we should.
We can do that as a Film for Thought episode.
Yeah,
or something
I
like
think
that.
so.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
that's it for me.
That's it for me.
Bye, folks.
Bye.